Hey gang, welcome back to our channel. I'm Paul with Stud Pack. In our previous video, you saw Jordan and I run all the base and casing for this project. There wasn't too much casing, just 3 doors, but we've got it all done. This is that wall. Way back in the framing stages, we made the decision to clip this wall. And now the base is run. Hit the edges with a little sandpaper, and that's gonna look sweet once it's painted. Got the casing all up, like I said, and we coped all the base. And guess where my best cope joint is, guys? In the back of the pantry. That's how it always happens, right? It's in the back of a closet where nobody's ever gonna see it. That was my best one. And then on the inside of this pantry, come on here, Jordan, check this out. The head casing, this piece, I put it up higher than our normal reveal. That way when you take this piece off, if you ever have to service the door, it's much easier to get out and nobody's gonna notice that on the inside of the pantry. And then right here on this bumper jamb for this pocket door, that's how we handled that. Made a 90-degree cut in the baseboard and clipped the corner, and that's gonna look fine. But today's project is running crown. I got a bunch of tips and tricks. The very first thing we wanna show you is the crown we chose and the jig we're gonna make to help us install it. Let's head outside and show you that crown. So whenever you're installing crown, the very first thing is which side is up. Now this crown has the same profile. It's symmetrical, and it's 4.5 this way and 4.5 this way. So to us, it doesn't matter, it's the same. But it's very important to install your crown with the profile and the direction that it's supposed to be. If you're unsure, ask the guys at your millwork shop what the correct orientation is, or if you buy it at a home center, there's usually a picture of the profile of the crown, and that picture is usually oriented up the correct way. But I've seen lots of crown put in upside down. In the end, it's what you want, right? So let's take this piece right here. I'm gonna hold it up against my framing square. Let's let this represent the ceiling, and this leg represent the wall. You can see I'm right at 4.5 right here on the ceiling. And I'm also at 4.5 right here on the wall. So our next step is to build an L-shaped jig to duplicate those measurements. If our crown was 4 by 5, our jig would be 4 by 5. If our crown were 2.5 by 3, our jig's gonna be 2.5 by 3. So our next step is to build that jig. We have everything we need set up on our saw stop right here. Let's head over there and get that jig built. So we've got a bunch of scrap plywood from this project left over. I've got 2 strips, 6 inches wide. We're gonna glue and screw them into an L, just like that. So I like to pre-drill anytime I'm making a jig like this, because I don't want this plywood to split. This is gonna be referencing off the inside corner of that drywall. I want it perfect, and pre-drilling is gonna help us make it that way. And I'm also gonna put a bead of glue right here, so it's super strong, and we don't have to worry about it. Boom. And I'm gonna hold this right there and let Jordan drive those screws. So we got that all done. Now we're ready to rip it according to the measurements of our crown. Remember, this was 4.5 and this was 4.5. So I've got my fence set at 4.5. If your crown is, for instance, 3 by 4, you'd make a rip at 3 on one leg and 4 on the other. This is gonna duplicate the crown. So let's send our L-shaped jig through the saw and finish it. So there we go, a perfect 4.5 by 4.5 jig. Isn't that a lot easier than accounting for the thickness of the plywood and measuring this piece separately and attaching it all together? Make it oversized, rip it through twice, and you're done. The other thing about this jig, it's 32 inches long, and we're gonna show you why inside. So I think we're ready, bud. You wanna bring this inside and show them step 1 of how we operate this jig?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Step 1.
All right. All right, gang, here's how this jig works. We'll put it up here on our ceiling. And to me, it doesn't matter, but to you, it might if your crown is different. Remember, for our crown, this will work this way or work this way because our crown is the same. If your crown is different, in other words, if the ceiling dimension is different from the wall, mark ceiling and mark wall so you're always consistent.
Mark Wahlberg.
We'll put it up there like that. And I'm gonna drop that piece of crown, make a mark. Now you see this magnet? It's on the screw holding the drywall to the joist. So there's my joist. Now remember we told you the jig is 32 inches long and I have a mark here at 16 and a mark here at 16 right in the middle. Now I just line the jig up with this mark on that joist. Then I know my next one is here and my next one is here. because we framed this at 16 inches on center. Now for this side, way back when we framed, remember we built this beam out with an extra 2x4. So this line represents the bottom of that 2x4. And we're gonna be able to nail into that anywhere along this length. So let's finish marking this beam, and then we'll show you how we mark a wall that has studs on it. Alrighty gang, we're working our way around the room. See our wall studs marked here. Over the doorway, we couldn't find any screws. And then I thought, well, there's probably a big header over that doorway anyway. So this is one of my favorite tools I carry in my pouch. It's just a little 1/8 inch flat bladed screwdriver. One of the things I use it for is finding studs. So we got up here, and it's solid. All the way along there. So they must have one big header going over this door. So we're gonna leave that. So let's get our jig, go around this wall behind Jordan, and finish up this room. All right, gang, we got the whole room marked. Whoop. Only took about 10 minutes, well worth it. Now we know exactly where our crown needs to be and exactly where we put a nail. So you might be asking yourself, why go to all the trouble to mark all this? Why can't you just come up here and throw the crown in? Well, check this out. I can put this crown up here, and it's got a pretty decent sized flat right here. But a lot of crown, the flat is tiny. By the flat, I mean the part that references the wall and the ceiling. That's pretty wide. It's gonna sit up there, but I can still roll it. See that? I can go up a little, I can come down a little. The lines are gonna tell me exactly where I need to be.
And once you start rolling it one direction, it kind of has a tendency to follow itself.
Yep.
So it's hard to correct it if you don't know that you're doing it.
Right. And the other thing the lines are gonna help me with is our measuring, and we're gonna show you that later. But right now, we're not done with our jig. Let's bring it out to our miter saw station, and we'll show you how this is gonna help us establish the crown stops on our miter saw. Alrighty gang, we're out here. Alrighty gang, we're out here at our saw, and we need to put on a crown stop. What does a crown stop do? If we didn't have anything out here on this table, how do we know where to put this crown to make a perfect 45-degree cut? A crown stop registers the crown in the fence and keeps it from rolling down like that. But how do we know where to put this? We're gonna use our jig. It's gonna tell us. Now, if you've ever installed crown before or watched some videos, you've probably heard you cut crown upside down. The table represents the ceiling, the fence represents the wall. So we're gonna put the ceiling portion of our jig right there, push this up against it, and screw this to these wings we made. You can use a clamp, whatever you need to do to get yourself a crown stop. A lot of saws come with crown stops. We don't have them, and we like this method, so we're gonna use that. So let's screw this board to our fences, and we're ready to cut some crown.
You know what's cool about this crown is that we are cutting it upside down, but it's technically, we can cut it either way we want.
We can.
Which is awesome.
We don't have to worry about it.
I have a really hard time with cutting upside down, cutting angles different ways. I gotta sit there and think about it for
Just visualizing it.
Right.
Yep.
So this is cool.
Yep, this
All
is gonna help you.
Yeah, let's screw it down.
All right. So now our crown stop is installed, and you can't have one that's too wide, otherwise you can't grab your table and swivel it around. Nice and thin, but it's gotta be straight. So now, I think we're done with this guy, Jordan.
I think so.
We'll just keep it aside in case we need it.
Right.
But we're ready to cut some crown. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right. Alrighty, guys. We made 2 different inside corners for you. We coped one and we mitered one. We wanted to see how hard this was to cope, how nice the joint would be versus a miter. This is pretty big crown to be cutting on that 10-inch saw, and we're going to show you a couple issues we're having. So first, let's show you the cope. It came out pretty good.
Yeah, you killed that.
Yep.
Good.
And that was done with the coping saw. Kind of tough, but we did it. I've never tried the angle grinder, guys, and I think on this particular crown, that grinder would have destroyed this because we had this wafer thin section right here, and it actually broke on me just carrying it inside, and it snapped.
Yeah, so that's a con
On
of
the
trying to
cope,
cope
yep.
this profile.
But just pretend that didn't break, and then you can see how nicely it fit. It's not perfect, but again, this is big crown right here to cope. This little mark here, the washer on the blade where it's being held onto the motor, it's actually hidden right there. You got to be careful there. And then I dinged it up a little bit here. Just hard to make all these turns with a coping saw. So now let's show you what a miter looks like. Let's walk over here to this table. That's much better.
And easier.
Yep, again, that's the ding from the washer. And then this tear out, what you're seeing right here, our blade won't go all the way through. So we had to flip it over and the blade chipped that out on the back side. So we'll have to be more careful next time. We really need a 12-inch saw to be cutting this. We're gonna try to make it work with the 10-inch. It's only one room worth of crown. I think we can make it work, but that looks a lot better. So we're gonna miter this stuff.
So it's decided.
Let's do it.
Outside miters.
All right.
Here we go.
Alrighty gang, we have nothing to nail to up here. So you saw us put some little dabs of construction adhesive on the top to help hold the top. This stuff is very stiff. One nail here, it's pulling the whole thing back, making this tight right there. I may come back and cross nail it, but I think that's gonna be plenty right there. You saw us put a shim right here in the corner. That's gonna align these two miters perfectly, just like that. So why don't we go down there, get that end done, and put up that piece above the window.
Let's do it.
All right.
I swear, in my head, I'm thinking that thing's gonna blow. I was thinking it. I should have said it.
I've got to get a new hose. All right, gang, that noise was the air hose coming off of the barb fitting. It's just a push fitting, no clamp necessary, but I either need a new hose or some little hose clamps.
We need something, man.
Yep.
It happens
we don't have
too-
either right now. Yeah, way
It happens
too
way
often.
too often.
I mean, this hose is old.
Yeah.
Well, let's fix it and get going.
Let me come down. All right.
Yeah.
I'm great, yeah. You're gonna shim it?
Yeah.
Okay. That thing's gonna blow, dude. Ooh. I don't know which side to be more afraid of. You know, I'm actually more afraid of the hose side.
Because it's got that thing on it now?
No, the hose will do more damage to me than, I'm more likely to get hit by the hose than I am a nail.
I'll hold it for you.
I'm not gonna shoot a nail.
Put one out there to your right. Yeah. Right there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, right there.
Did you bring all the shims in or just?
No, just no. Short answer is no.
It's not bad.
Well, the right side needs to come down more than the left side. I don't think the corner shim, the 2-for-1. I think you got to go separately.
Flush here though. I mean, they're flush, right?
Yeah, the bottom looks phenomenal.
Here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm touching right there.
Oh.
See it?
Yep. Send it then. That looks like a coat.
Mm-hmm.
That is an outside
It
miter
does.
that looks like a coat.
It does.
Send it.
Actually, I think, yeah, this one, if this one were to roll down more.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to try your method?
Yeah.
There you go.
Told you.
You were right. Right, that looks great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So the shims are just lining the miter up to account for the out of planeness, out of squareness of the ceiling and the walls. Once all that's caulked, you'll never see it. Nice job, bud. All right, I'll trim these off. Let's nail this one. Right on that wall over there.
Yeah. Give it a whirl.
All right, guys, we've got all the crown up in the dining room. Use a 10-inch miter saw for this stuff. You saw we had to flip it over. Not my favorite, pretty frustrating, but we got it done. Now you saw us do a couple of things. So imagine that's an inside corner and it wasn't tight at the top. You saw us shim the top to roll them down and make it tight. But sometimes the difference was so big, we couldn't roll it enough to tighten up that miter joint. So we'd actually take this piece back to the saw, reset the miter, so we were cutting 0 here, but like an 1/8 or 3/16 whenever we needed on this end. And that helped us to close up that miter. We only had to do it twice. It worked great. And like I said, that saw was undersized for this, but we did it. So if you're interested in more crown, we actually have all the crown to install on top of these cabinets. It's a much smaller profile, so it's gonna work great with a crown stop and that saw, just one cut. We're done.
Yeah, in the last video, they were talking about using that CA glue with the activation spray. We don't have any. We've looked for it. I'm excited to use it, so maybe we can get some before we start running the crown on these cabinets. I would love to try that and see how it is.
Yeah, I've been checking my favorite website for all the tools I need. That's one of them. It says they have it, but you can't add it to the cart. So I guess I got to call them and figure that out.
Maybe we'll have a special hookup in the comments.
There we go.
Let us know where to get it, guys.
There we go. So installing crown molding just takes a lot of patience. We would cut a piece a little long, 2 or 3 trips to the saw to sneak up on it because this stuff's expensive. You don't want to waste it. I'd rather make 3 trips to the saw, get it perfect, than to cut it too short, and now we're wasting this expensive stock. But you know what, guys? Your crown button's looking a little plain. I think you need to get some crown molding, frame that thing perfectly with it, smash that like button for us. Jordan and I would super appreciate that. Leave us a comment, ask a question, and if you haven't subscribed already, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on our next video.